work that we do at Black Guns Matter, or the work that I do, can be summed up very simply. You have advocates and you have activists. Now, the term activist lately is getting kind of a misrepresentation. An activist is someone that's active in their community, whether that's positive or negative, right? When gang members, when they are actively engaging in targeting other members of other gangs with whatever else they do, right? You're active, you're involved. I'm active in the community to make sure that urban America is becoming informed and becoming involved in the Second Amendment fight. An advocate is just someone that talks about it. And both of them are important. But an advocate, to advocate for something, is just speaking that, it's high praise, right? Telling people about the importance of the Second Amendment, that's an entry-level starting point. But as you get more skin in the game once you get active. That's the best example I can give of what I do and my personality type, as well as when you compare that to a lot of people that are just like gun industry influencers. Influence is important, I'm not knocking that. Because the more popular you are, or the more people you can influence, that's a great thing when it's in alignment with your value system. But that, to me, is not enough. I think that you need to be in New Orleans, you need to be in St. Louis, you need to at least be orchestrating people to involve them to get more hearts and minds on this side of our fight. So that's the clearest difference between what I am and do and what 95% of people that are on social media saying they trainers or instructors or whatever. You gotta pump new blood into the muscle in order to get it to grow. And in order for that muscle to grow and pump blood, you have to be active. You can't just talk to your muscles to get them to expand. Some people may be a little confused when I say our work, right? Or bring people on the our side. Our work at Black Guns Matter is what my vocation is. Involving people and them having a means in their human right to self-defense. That's inculcated in or codified in what the Second Amendment means, right? The second half being the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. We're involving people in a demographic that has historically been targeted, the opposite of that second half of the Second Amendment. You black people, urban America is too many people, you don't deserve the same rights as everyone else. It's not because we are saying we want to be separate, per se. Each person can make that decision for themselves. We're saying that this is where the problem with defending human rights primarily is, in this demographic. So our work is waking that demographic up and making them become gun owners, safe and responsible gun owners, and getting them from being advocates or activists for their own disinterest or their own unarming. We do that by explaining that to the people, by being active in those communities. That is the work. That work is something that they're not going to tell you to be a part of on Twitter, per se. They're not going to tell you to empower black communities, and then say, empowering black communities for basic human rights, the right to keep and bear arms. That isn't a hate everybody else argument. That's all of the boats gonna rise when the tide goes up. So if our community's involved in purchasing firearms and firearm accessories and defending our communities and being safe and responsible, we have a net benefit. Now we have less violent crime in those communities, which are better for the families in those communities, which is better for businesses in those communities. All of that encompasses what our work is. That word vocation is very important. It's a calling. That's what that word means. And that's what our work is at Black Guns Matter. So in explaining all of that about our work and things of that nature, it's very important that we understand that there's a lot of people that own guns. That doesn't necessarily make them a Second Amendment activist or advocate. That just makes them a gun owner. I can buy a really fast car, but that doesn't make me a race car driver. So the challenge with our work is to make sure that we can get people to purchase firearms. That's great. But getting a person to see why they're purchasing firearms and taking their personal protection and self-defense of themselves and their community is important. That's a more subtle and more complex part of the work. You get people to understand that by, one, giving them the value and understanding of why their life matters. why their community is important. Having them have value in self, individually. If I know that I'm important, then that also means that I matter. If I matter, then that means I need to have the means to make sure that my choices are in alignment with me still being here. And unfortunately, coming to the harsh reality that some people may not want you to be here. They may want to rob, rape, or kill you. And I want that community to have those means to protect against that. Just owning a firearm, and because guns are cool and the value increases certain firearms and things like that, that's great. I can teach anybody how to fight. The bigger lesson is teaching them why they're fighting. Now, when you come to our classes, if you happen to be melanated, we are absolutely going to tell you the truth about the Second Amendment in America. As it stands, it's written as government cannot take or give these Bill of Rights away, and the second one being your right to keep and bear arms. The other part of that is it has not historically been applied to melanated beings the same way. Gun control in its essence, systemically, since the inception of it into the American culture, has been there to stop black people from having a basic human right. The reason for that is because on one hand, if I say every human has the right to keep and bear arms, but we want to treat a certain group of people less than human, we can't have them involved in that scenario the same way. When we do that, we have to come up with different rules for that group of people. And that historically is what America has done when it comes to gun control. Gun control is a 180-degree opposite, diametrically opposed to the freedom speech that is in the Second Amendment. So when black people, melanated people feel that way, when they come to our classes, we're not here to sugarcoat that shit for anybody. Gun control is racist. And the framers of this place knew that overreaching governments telling humans that what firearms or arms they can have or not have, but the government can, they knew that was bullshit. So they parked that racist bullshit right on the top of black people's heads. And they also did that because you don't want a group of people that have been disenfranchised. We all know that America's a great place, but we also know that our flag got stains on it, captivity. So if I start to tell black people, this was put in position to put your government on timeout. This ain't just about we're here to plink and hunt. Nah, black people. The Second Amendment was here to shoot corrupt portions of government. That's how America was created. So no, we're not going to sugarcoat that just because the people that, white liberals that want to push, or any racist that wants to push, well, not the black people. Nah, we're not gonna trick our people that way. Not at all. Firearms and the Second Amendment is there to shoot tyrannical government. Period. So what I just said literally is you have a American and human fundamental right. This place is codified in you have a right to defy government that becomes overreaching up until the point of lethal force. It's not just me saying that, it's in the Bill of Rights, and there's been Supreme Court decisions that support that. The reason why that sounds cringeworthy is because most people aren't aware of the Constitution of the Bill of Rights. And again, like earlier, we recognize that they have political alliances. They don't want to talk about nothing that may be offensive to people because the general culture has not been steeped in freedom and liberty and the Constitution. When we get back to that, this thing won't be taboo. No different than gun ownership. You teach somebody about firearms and basic safety, they're no longer afraid of it. If the general public understands that, hey, this Constitution, this Bill of Rights, and these things are supposed to work for you and keep government at bay, the conversation of, yeah, you're supposed to be at bay. It's not taboo to say, hey, if someone's trying to rape you, should you defend yourself and stop them? It's not taboo to say, absolutely. Because it's a general understanding and accepted view that you shouldn't be trying to rape people, okay? Same concept. So people are cringing to that now because the culture has been co-opted. The culture has been turned into, if you want to defend yourself or if you want to have firearms and train, then somehow there must be something wrong with you. If you don't trust government blindly, even if they're telling you, hey, put this mask on, hey, put this in your body, forget the Fourth Amendment, forget your bodily autonomy. If you don't go along with that, there must be something wrong with you. That's cringe to a person that's liberty-minded. But if the general public has been fed a steady diet of enslavement and captive mentality, they're not gonna, it's gonna be cringy for them to hear me say guns are there to shoot bad guys and bad governments. Now, to those companies, because it's usually companies that play the, man, that sounds cringy, even though you're selling the thing that would kill a tyrant, right? They'll say, nah, man, we gotta not play that. So they won't talk about the politics and the current state of, a government is actually attempting to try to convince its citizens to not have their own arms, right? You have companies like Phoenix Ammo that made a statement about, hey, if you voted for Joe Biden, let's educate you when you go to their website. This is what you voted for. Now, then it seemed to be so controversial, but it wasn't in reality. Because now, a year or so later, we're looking at even people that voted for Joe Biden is like, yo, this is not what I signed up for. That company understood, hey, politics is downstream from culture. And we have to make sure that the culture is being preserved, the culture of freedom and liberty and limited government, because it will continue to expand. So those companies generally that want to stay out of the political conversation, they do it up until a certain point. They do it up until their bottom lines are impacted because the culture shifts back into a direction of freedom, as we're seeing it's doing now. It's happening now. Or they just come out and say, hey, we just selling the stuff. We don't really have an attachment to the Second Amendment, which still will impact their bottom lines. I'm not buying nothing from a company like that. I'm not wearing jeans from some company that say they don't want people to have the means to defend themselves. I'm not doing it. And we see it politically. It's a hot button topic because of culture, because of people, the Me Too movement, the cancel culture, all of these things that aren't really real, but people are afraid of them. People, activists, advocates, and companies. So then the question becomes, well, damn, can they even really call themselves Second Amendment activists or advocates if they don't even address the politics? Now, the short answer would be, yeah, they can call themselves that. They can say, I'm a Second Amendment activist until it's time to get active. Everybody want to be gangster until it's time to do some gangster shit. Everybody wants to say Second Amendment until it's time to do some Second Amendment shit. Whether the fates will tempt their hands in that direction is a whole nother thing. There's millions of dollars to be made by regular individuals as influencers, advocating for the Second Amendment, getting the products from companies, they can take care of their families. But that doesn't make you the thing that you're saying you are. And then a lot of times, the fear from companies and sponsorships and all of those different things actually makes those people not in reality the thing that they're saying they are. So yes, they can say they're active, but I don't really listen to words. Missouri, show me state. You gotta show me. The reason why some people that sell the product feel as if they can't talk about the historical significance of the Second Amendment is for more of that fear of being canceled, fear of their bottom line being, removed. And the irony is, historically, companies that stand up, take Goya, for example. Everybody went to go buy Goya after they made statements that the left tried to cancel them for. How many times is Kanye West supposed to have been canceled? They're not paying attention to history. And that's a clear example of it. Tyrants always fall. It might seem like they're around for a very long time, but tyrants always fall. But these people that are living in a fear-based, or I don't want to impact my bottom line, or, I don't want to offend anyone with all of this freedom, those people generally, they sell product and they make money off of it, but they're not from the cloth. People are standing up to not even just firearms-related causes, but just telling the government, no, thank you. That's not your role. We got this. That's more of a litmus test to see what these people really more kind of lie with. But if they still supporting and highlighting companies, guys that got millions of followers that literally do interviews and say the general public shouldn't have access to ARs or a certain amount of guns, These people are not activists, they not advocates, and they actually not the fuck around me or Black Guns Matter. Anyone that would think that me advocating for something as American as apple pie, as the Second Amendment, is somehow creating friction, that person has a hidden agenda. I'm highlighting the thing that the foundation of America was built on. So either America's foundation in that regard is wrong, or they have an agenda. So for example, if someone says, you advocating for the Second Amendment in Black communities and saying that the Second Amendment is to stop overreaching government, those same police officers that they would say I'm creating friction for, they take an oath to the same Constitution. It's not my rule. It's not divisive. I'm American as fuck. America made me this way. The question then becomes, well, if the government isn't being overreaching, then they have nothing to worry about. We are safe and responsible gun owners that want to take care of our community from scumbags. If you're being a scumbag and hiding behind the badge or hiding behind the government position, that don't got shit to do with me. I'm speaking about justice. I'm speaking about righteousness. I'm speaking about balance. I'm speaking about defying actual criminals, those that would rob, rape, and murder people unjustifiably. That's what I'm talking about. Now, if certain people feel like, oh, well, that could be perceived, I'm not concerned about your perceptions. I articulate the points very well. This firearm, this Second Amendment, is here to defend my individual life, my collective community, from scumbags, whether they are outside of government or in it. If you're not a scumbag, you're my brother or sister in arms, and there's no problem at all. The person that would say that that creates a problem is probably problematic themselves. The people that do say that usually fall into a few categories. One, they're afraid. You know, they live in a space where they don't understand that there's, as beautiful as their communities are and all these and life is, there's still some weirdos out here. You know, 400,000 women in a year get snatched. It's not like good people snatching women. Those people are ignorant and unaware. Or the more insidious type is the person that wants to reverse psychology you because you're outspoken and influential. They want you to be painted as the bad guy and say a falsehood. Or you're gonna increase the crime rate. Well, the last 20, 30 years, as more firearms have been purchased, there's been less violent crime nationally. So those people, their agenda is to convince people like the Black community to operate in their own disinterest, while at the same time circumnavigating the Constitution. So they can bring in this Marxist bullshit that they trying to pull off. That shit ain't happening on my watch. So if that person's ignorant, I could work with that. We can have a civil conversation and I can show them the error in their ways if they're open to it. But if they insidious, like the Everytowns, the Bloombergs, these globalists, I don't have no fucking quarter for them. I don't care. They're welcome to disagree with me and call me whatever name they want. Sticks and stones, not just their words. Their words don't mean a motherfucking thing to me.